Hello and welcome to SatTV Week, the news programme for the international satellite industry. This week, Richard Hooper talks to David Hartshorn, Secretary General of the GVF, about satellite interference. James Shortland reports on NASA's latest commercial launch contract with ULA, and Trisha Jones has the launch news. But first, here's Carrie-Anne with the news headlines.
Visada has launched a range of highly flexible global maritime broadband packages integrating Ku-band VSAT and mobile satellite services, including the newly launched Visada Exchange. The packages range from unlimited 256 kilobits per second VSAT airtime only, starting at $1,500 per month, up to an unlimited 1,024 kilobits per second VSAT, plus MSS airtime and hardware backup, for a monthly fee of $2,750. Customers can choose between a VSAT antenna from Thrain & Thrain, Visada's preferred partner, as well as Intellian or Cetel with the Inmarsat Fleet Broadband 250 and 500 or Iridium Open Port service as backup. Packages are further enhanced with the newly launched Visada Exchange service, seamlessly integrating VSAT, MSS voice and broadband data in one unified global maritime communications network, and providing full access to Visada solutions such as the Skyfile messaging and security suite and prepaid solutions hosted via the Visada teleports. Stratos Global provided world-renowned adventurer Ray Zarhab's Expedition Bolivia with Inmarsat BGAM mobile broadband satellite service. Expedition Bolivia, held earlier this year, was the fourth stage of Zarhab's Impossible to Possible World Expedition series. This stage took place in the Salar de Uyuni, the world's largest salt flat high in the Bolivian Andes. In this expedition, Zarhab, 4 youth ambassadors and other adventurers took the I2P experiential learning programme to the salt flats to illustrate the role that chemistry plays in the region, in honour of the United Nations International Year of Chemistry. The expedition leaders successfully used BGAN to broadcast content to their website and to maintain contact with their project team, post photos and blog entries, upload videos and stream live video conferencing into classrooms across North America.
Carrie-Anne will be back later with more news. RF interference of satellite has become a very big issue for the industry, and recently Richard Hooper met with David Hartshorn, Secretary General of the GVF, to find out why.
The satellite industry, as you well know, has entered into an entirely new chapter of its history. They've broken through finally into the consumer market. And here we are in Asia Pacific, which is a fantastic example of that, where with just one satellite operator, you now have going on 250,000 subscribers on a consumer class Ka-band broadband service. Asia is not unique in this regard. You have more than 1 million subs now in North America at a Ka-band consumer class service. You've got Avanti in Europe, as well as now Eutelsat with their two-way service, also at Ka-band, rolling out right across Europe and across the top end of the African continent. So all the metrics have now changed, the business model has changed, the cost structure, and yes, interference implications have now entered into the picture at an entirely new level.
What role is the GVF playing in sort of trying to sort this mess out?
Right. Well, it's not a simple mess. There's a number of sources of interference that we're seeing. Some of it is product quality related, where there's an insufficient design on the Earth station equipment. Secondly, what we're seeing is insufficiently trained installers by the tens of thousands worldwide. Some of these, many of these entities are actually employed by third-party contractors who are fighting for new business in a very competitive market, and spending money to build up the skills of these individuals is not at the top of their list of things to do. So we have what we think of as death by 1,000 duck bites is happening right now, and we have a range of initiatives in play supported by the industry worldwide increasingly, which are being rolled out to address the problem.
David, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
second Algerian Space Agency satellite, ALSAT-2B, will be built in Algeria by Space Agency engineers. The ALSAT-2A satellite, built by Astrium, has now been in orbit for 1 year. Since its launch in July last year, it has been providing 2.5 million resolution imagery of extremely high quality. ALSAT-2 is the first Earth observation satellite from Astrium's AstroSat 100 product line, based on the Myriad platform, also comprising the first flight model of the new Naomi optical instrument. And now here's Tricia with more launch news.
In the company's first commercial shared launch, ILS successfully launched SES-3 and the KazSat-2 satellites on board a Proton-M rocket on Saturday from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The SES-3 satellite was orbited for SES of Luxembourg, one of the world's largest telecommunications satellite operators, with a fleet of 45 satellites in orbit. The SES-3 satellite was paired with KazSat-2, a satellite that will serve the Republic of Kazakhstan. After an 8-hour mission, the Breeze-M successfully released the SES-3 satellite directly into geostationary transfer orbit. The KazSat-2 satellite, built by Khrunichev, was delivered directly into geosynchronous orbit after a 9-hour, 24-minute mission. India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle successfully launched the GSAT-12 communications satellite on July the 15th from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre. The launch of PSLV C-17 was the 18th successful flight of PSLV. After a smooth countdown of 53 hours, the vehicle lifted off from the second launch pad. After about 20 minutes of flight time, GSAT-12 was successfully injected into sub-geosynchronous transfer orbit with a perigee of 284 kilometres and an apogee of 21,020 kilometres with an orbital inclination of 17.9 degrees. ISRO Telemetry Tracking Command Network's ground station at Biak, Indonesia, acquired the signals from GSAT-12 immediately after the injection of the satellite. The solar panels of the satellite were deployed automatically. Initial checks on the satellite have indicated normal health of the satellite. Pre-launch tests of the Soyuz TMA-22 crew vehicle have begun at the Baikonur Cosmodrome and will last 2 months. The verification sequence covers standalone and integrated system tests, tests in vacuum and acoustic chambers. At the final stages, prime and backup crews will arrive at the spaceport to inspect the vehicle. The launch of Soyuz TMA-22 with the next ISS crew is slated for September.
As the Space Shuttle program ends with the return of Atlantis, NASA has announced that it has reached an agreement with the United Launch Alliance to attempt to adopt the Atlas V commercial rocket to send astronauts to the ISS. James has the story.
NASA and United Launch Alliance's agreement covers technical support through NASA's Commercial Crew Program at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Through an unfunded Space Act agreement, NASA will collect technical information from ULA on the Atlas V to develop an understanding of system capability for human spaceflight. The Atlas V is a flight-proven expendable launch vehicle which is currently used by NASA and the Department of Defense for critical space missions. Whilst the majority of the work will be completed by the end of this year, it will be at least 4 years before the United States will be able to transport the astronauts to the ISS on anything other than Russia's Soyuz rockets. NASA Administrator Charlie Bolden said that having ULA on board will speed the development of a commercial crew transportation system for the ISS, allowing NASA to concentrate its resources on exploring beyond low Earth orbit. The agency will provide feedback to ULA based on its human spaceflight experience and the draft human certification requirements. ULA will provide NASA feedback on those requirements, including providing input on the technical feasibility and cost-effectiveness of NASA's proposed certification approach. The Atlas V rocket family has been in service since 2002 and has been involved in 26 launches, with only one partial failure in 2007 when the engine in the Centaur upper stage of an Atlas V shut down early, leaving its payload in lower than intended orbit.
According to a Russian news agency, Roscosmos, the country's space agency, said on Monday Russia will not take advantage of its temporary monopoly on flying astronauts to the ISS. Russia has signed a number of contracts with NASA for the delivery of US astronauts to the ISS until 2016, which take into consideration annual inflation rates and rising costs of materials in Russia. NASA is paying Roscosmos more than $1 billion for crew transport services over the next 4 years. And now here's Carrie-Anne with more news.
O3b Networks has successfully completed the critical design review of the Constellation space segment. This significant event in O3b's development validated that the satellite design will exceed its technical specifications, allowing O3b to deliver an even higher level of competitiveness to the market. Brian Holtz, the company's Chief Technical Officer, told SatTV Week that the maturity of the design and the tests completed to date gives them great confidence in the system. The Constellation will offer over 70 gigabits per second of bandwidth on the global basis at round-trip latencies below 130. SeaTel, who have a teleport in the centre of Germany, has finalised its preparations for the upcoming launch of the Arabsat 5C satellite. Its Vertex 9.3 metre antenna has been levelled to operate on the satellite, which will offer full African coverage in standard and extended C-band. SeaTel will offer up-downlink services as well as broadband internet access and further fibre optic connections. According to Guado Newman, director of SeaTel Group, the increased availability of C-band bandwidth on Arabsat 5C complements and broadens SeaTel's existing services on the Arabsat fleet. The Arabsat 5C launch is scheduled for August.
And finally, NASA's Dawn spacecraft has returned the first close-up image after beginning its orbit around the giant asteroid Vesta. On Friday, July the 15th, Dawn became the first probe to enter orbit around an object in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The image shows Vesta in greater detail than ever before. Vesta is 530 kilometers in diameter and the second most massive object in the asteroid belt. Ground and space-based telescopes have obtained images of Vesta for about 2 centuries, but they have not been able to see much detail on its surface. Dawn will spend 1 year orbiting Vesta, then travel to a second destination, the dwarf planet Ceres, arriving in February 2015. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching.